His name is IShowSpeed, and he is the fastest man alive. When he was a child, he saw his mother killed by something impossible. His father went to prison for her murder. And then an accident made him the impossible. To the outside world, he's an ordinary YouTube streamer, but secretly uses his speed to fight crime and find others like him. And one day, he will find who killed his mother and get justice for his father. He is IShowSpeed. Hello everybody and welcome to Hatsu, the show where I create Nen abilities for characters and real people. Today we'll be creating a Hatsu for Darren Wilkins Jr., also known as Mr. IShowSpeed. Now, I know the Nen wheel is loved amongst you Stodolites, however today is not the day we bring that bad boy out. Instead, I'll reveal Speed's ore type through a highly detailed personality analysis. However, if this video gets 1 billion likes, I'll bring back the Nen wheel for the next installation of Hatsu. Now over to you Stodol for that personality analysis. Thank you Stodol. So if we take a look at Speed right over here, we can see that he's already a very athletic individual. Very impressive, Mr. Speed, but that's not all he can do. Wow, look at that speedster go. So physically, Speed is already shaping up to be a good enhancer candidate. However, Speed is known to be quick to react in a volatile manner, a trait trademarked by the emitter archetype. Well, let's not forget his simple and determined aspects to his personality as well. I mean, he does have a YouTube channel with 33 million subscribers. Now, as for ability inspirations, we can get Speed's interest, and as you can see here, Speed is a big fan of One Piece, even dressing up as Luffy for Halloween. So it's something we need to keep in mind as well. Regardless of what Nen type Speed gets, I'm certain his powerful legs will be a key aspect in his development of his Hatsu. Truly amazing work there, Stodol. Now with that information in mind, I believe that Speed would be best off as an enhancer with a slight lean in transmutation, meaning that he has equal proficiency in picking up both enhancement and transmutation techniques. However, his spread would still look like that of a full enhancers. So now that we have his aura type, it's time to explain the Hatsu I created for Mr. Speed, called Speed. This technique exclusively uses enhancement and transmutation, with its main purpose to be increasing Speed's, well, speed. We all know Speed has some very powerful legs, so he uses his enhancement efforts towards enhancing his legs, allowing Speed's legs to stand up to more damage while also increasing his overall power. This application of Nen allows Speed to jump higher, run faster, and more importantly, kick harder. Due to Speed focusing his aura to enhance his legs, his defenses everywhere else are weaker than a typical enhancer would be as a drawback. To overcome this, Speed uses fancy footwork and quick movements to dodge attacks rather than blocking them. However, IShowSpeed's ability doesn't just make his legs stronger. Speed also uses transmutation to transmute his aura to have the explosive properties of TNT, combined with the properties of gasoline. Speed has 3 major ways he uses his transmuted Nen. Speed can first of all cause explosions on impact when he attacks someone. He can also make explosions from his legs, allowing him to jump higher and give him an explosive start in combat. And finally, he can burn his Nen like a fuel source to multiply the effectiveness of his enhancement capabilities. So that means jumping higher, running faster, and kicking harder. While Speed is burning his Nen, there's a smoky substance leaking out of his skin as a fun little reference to the goat Monkey D. Luffy from One Piece. There are a couple major drawbacks to Speed's speed ability, being the fact that Speed is also affected by the explosions. However, due to Speed's super reinforced legs, this issue doesn't really come up often. And finally, Speed uses so much Nen when using this technique, like tons of Nen. However, this also isn't really an issue to him, and I can't quite remember why. Anyway, this ability fits Speed's explosive personality while incorporating fun references to a show very important to Speed. So in conclusion, this ability is super cool. Bye! Hello everybody and welcome to Hatsu, the show where I create Nen abilities for characters and real people. Wait, didn't I do this already? Oh, I remember now. Speed has a second ability that only activates on the condition of Speed's death. So when I ended the video, it activated, sending me back to the beginning. Of course, how could I have even forgotten? So Speed is all about going fast, right? Well, what is the fastest thing in the universe? If you said light, you would be correct. And well, light has a very fun property in the fact that a single photon is both a wave and a particle. Now, quantum mechanics is way above my pay grade and goes right over my head. So because I'm not trying to spread misinformation, from this point on, take everything I say with a huge block of sodium chloride.
Actually, dude, it's salt.
But basically, there's this experiment called the double slit experiment, where individual photons of light act differently depending on if they're being observed. So while you're observing the photon, it acts more like a particle, and when you're not observing it, it acts like a wave. Now that is a really crude and undetailed description of what's actually going on, as this is quantum mechanics, and I am stupid. But regardless, what's important is that Speed's Nen ability uses this concept of changing properties under observation, inspired by light, giving him a new Nen ability if he is being observed. but who is watching? There is this fascinating book called Oxford's Dictionary, which defines observe to see or notice somebody / something. However, how can we be so sure that our eyes are telling us the truth? If you've been on the internet for a while, this dress might look familiar to you. Some think that it's white and gold, while others think it's black and blue. Yet we're looking at the same photo, so how can this be? Well, because in reality, it's extremely easy to fool our human eyes. Is this a duck or is this a bunny? And why does this car look like it's smiling at me? Well, okay, sure, optical illusions exist, but that doesn't change the fact that an apple is an apple, right? Well, the only way we know how to interact with the outside world is through our senses, which is something that can be easily manipulated through a variety of factors. Like, how could you be so certain that you aren't asleep right now? The only way to know that you're not sleeping is to wake up, but I know I've dreamed I've woken up before, so how could I be sure that I'm not sleeping? Well, what about math then? The language of the universe, surely 7 times 3 equals 21. Even when I'm sleeping. But what if there were an evil god who manipulated your thoughts so whenever you tried to multiply 7 by 3, you got 20 instead? That would mean that there's no real way of proving that we aren't sleeping. So does that mean that there's nothing we can actually prove? There's no way of proving that we aren't just hallucinating the world around us. Who's to say that the world as we know it even exists? And if the world doesn't exist, would that also mean that I don't exist? Is my entire life a lie? If there's nothing I can be sure of, how could I be sure of my own existence at this point? I mean, I think I exist.
That's actually some pretty solid evidence.
René Descartes.
You see, René Descartes believed at the very least we are thinking things, as your thoughts, no matter how unreliable they may be, are proof that you're thinking. Now, you can't be thinking you don't exist if you don't exist. Therefore, thinking is proof of existing, at the very minimum, as a thinking thing. Or...
Say the line, Bart!
Bazinga!
Now, what incarnation does this have to do with Speed's Hatsu? Well, you see, if Speed's net abilities change depending on the condition of him being observed, and at the baseline the only thing we can be sure of for certain is our own existence, then logically our own perception of ourselves would be the most important thing, meaning that the condition of changing Speed's Hatsu is whether or not Speed is observing himself. Meaning that to activate Speed's second ability, Speed would first need to stop observing himself, which would essentially mean that Speed would have to die first. Now, dying gives Speed access to Postmortem Nen, which is straight up broken in Hunter x Hunter, which perfectly explains Speed's huge aura reserves. But now that we know how Speed activates his other abilities, we can explain what said other ability actually does. This technique is called a surfer, and it is extremely simple. Anyone in possession of this ability instantly gets thrusted back in time a random undetermined amount, meaning that when Speed dies and his net ability changes to a server, he gets thrusted back in time, basically giving Speed a do-over. This technique changes Speed into a specialist when he acquires the ability, and the technique itself uses specialization. That's it, that's all folks, that's the end of this video. I have a Discord, check it out, like, sub, and goodbye.